What is a high-tier human to a low-tier god? Well, I for one wouldn't know who wins, or if it's even better to be a god. But what I do like is the thematic that these two characters give off. One that rejected his humanity after seeing the sins that come with it, essentially becoming a self-proclaimed god. The other, however, rejected his ascension to better understand his humanity, acknowledging that even if it isn't perfect, is what we can do to make it even better. It's a classic showing of nihilism versus humanism. Dale actively seeking that there is no hope in humans, and actively seeing them as beneath him, the effort that they put in being regarded as worthless, and even telling people to, end it.
Kill yourself now!
Meanwhile, Jidion actively sees hope and genuine potential to be better in both victims and the predators, not wanting it to get to a point where both are killing each other over an act of vengeance. However, there was a similar time where both were in similar positions.
What?
Though I guess technically you can argue that Dale was still worse to some degree, but regardless, those positions being Quarantine Dale and Prank Player Jidion. These are exact examples of the personas that they once thought would get them to where they needed to be. The high-tier human and low-tier god being trapped in a pit full of their own ignorance and reluctance during these eras. However, it's how both of them came out of said pit that shaped who they are. Jidion choosing to climb out of his ignorance and reflect on the path he chose. Basically, from there, he was trying to be a better person. Before that, his personality dragged him into be something worse than the point of no return. Dale Emmanuel Wilson, however, was aware but chose to marinate and bask at the reflections of his own ignorance, arrogance, and narcissism. But it came at the cost of the people closest to him. So like for example, his baby mama, Rox, Nikolai, Big Nasty, his daughter, etc, etc. The list goes on. Whatever, you wanted to put in there, I won't blame you. I mean, I argue I go for Richard Sr., but, that's a whole nother story for another day. But anyways, when the time came, it was already too late for him to climb out of, said situation he put himself in. That situation being, of course, his 121k in debt, and counting, mind you. To put it in retrospective, both Dale and Jidion are similar in a way because both are a product of their own foundation. Situation, environment, whatever you want to call it. However, Jidion wanted to be better while Dale was already content with how he was, both having their worst personalities dragging them to fame. However, only one of them didn't cling over to the people that they are now. For example, Jidion, during his prank era, was, roughly regarded as destructive. It's only until after 2023 he decided to slow down on the prank content and, actually became a better person. Or in this case, a pred catcher. For who you want to argue which internet personality is more, funny, successful, iconic, tolerable, or even just had more leeway into, getting out of their set predicaments. In this case, I'm talking about Quarantine, Lowtiergod, and Prank Era Jidion. You can make a whole discussion whether they should have kept their internet personalities or should have just changed for the better. Me personally, I wouldn't know them too much to actually tell them when to, whether it's too much or just not too much. But what I can tell you is the impact that comes with it and how it reflects the greatest flaw in humanity, that is wanting to be better than what you already are. It represents our greatest strength for not wanting to need help, and our biggest weakness for not wanting to accept said help. It reveals our greatest and most deplorable weaknesses, in mankind. Basically, in simpler terms, it's our modern day David versus Goliath, yin and yang, TikTok Christians versus Reddit atheists, for whatever's left is after the smoke clears. which also can be referred to TikTok Christians and Reddit atheists, but that's a story for another day. But more importantly, what is left for them after the smoke clears, and what their clash of ideas tell us about humanity as a whole. Let's start with some people might say is the most obvious, easiest or the most climactic one. I was probably going to say this for, a later analysis video, but, sure, let's get this over with. For those of you who don't keep track with his lore, currently we are, well, as the time of I'm recording this, 12 days away from Ragnarok. Rog Day, or in this case, just the downfall of Dale, in and of itself. And as for August 30th, it doesn't really matter, what time period, time zone, hour. What we do know is that Dale will eventually see the Grand Canyon as a whole. For Dale, there will be nothing left for him after August 30th. Not a prize, not a berating of what he has done wrong, or about the fact that his dreams will never come. It's about the acknowledgement and the definitive fact that he himself has failed, and not even his title of God can save him from the dread of disappointment. This disappointment will not only continue to consume Dale, but spread over to those who share a trace of his blood, for that his downfall is more steep than the Grand Canyon
not intended for you.
But as for Jidion, he went from prankster to cred catcher, accused of being a racist, arrested, and as we know, off the platform, well, at least for now. Ironic of how the same thing he thought would make him a hero, a self-proclaimed god, just like Dale Emmanuel Wilson, shunned him, convulsed him into hiding for good. For what is left of Jidion, we still do not know. Legend said he has been caught in California. Some people say that he's been caught sleeping with Jet. Others may have seen him at the Grand Canyon the same time that Dale has. For what we do know is that even the highest tier of humans, the highest value of humans, still aren't safe from the deepest despair of graces. Because in a way, both Jidion and Dale, are essentially both two sides of the same coin. Lowtiergod's idea of absolute superiority through absolute alienation. Jidion's idea of humanity in everyone through the grace of living and acknowledgement of value of life in all things. Both of these ideas often reflect the pride that plagues society, with humans having similar, if not distinct, definitions of what they think prideful is. With humans actively not wanting to be helped, having some level of superiority complex, and thinking of themselves of a higher value just because of their experiences. Meanwhile, the virtue of humanity shines when we do ask for help, value life the same way justice is praised, and the strength that comes with overcoming the filth in our humanity. Both Jidion and Dale are both different sides of humanity that actively warn us and question things about our own humanity. With Dale having the right motivation, Jidion having the right pathway, but both having it wrongly executed for the same reasons that they wanted it to, not succeed. Hell, even their means about going about their ideals actively, are the reason why they're in their position currently in the first place. With Dale being, still in depth and is about to jump off the Grand Canyon, and Jidion, well, we don't know where Jidion is, but, that's in the end, man will never be able to carry out the task of God's teachings. But not even self-righteous, deserving, or even proclaimed godhood can defend or overcome the vile sins of man.